My beautiful souls. Happy 2023. Can you believe we're already here? I hope you've been having an amazing holiday season. If you're watching this on the 1st of Jan, I hope your New Year's Eve was absolutely spectacular and magical and exactly what you wanted it to be. So this is an overview of the month of January, where we're just looking at some of the key highlights for the energy collectively. Naturally, everyone's chart, my love, is individual, and so it could impact you differently, but this is sort of just a general feeling of what is happening, and I've chosen the ones that sort of resonated for me, because there is so much that is happening in the sky, but I don't wish to make this like an hour-long video. Where we deep dive into everything. So the first sort of thing that I wanted to touch base on was the keywords that came to me for January was very much refinement, reviewing, leaving space for aha moments, breakthroughs to happen. There's really potent periods for clarity. There's a need for spaciousness. And it's very much sort of that last little bit of prep before we go full steam ahead. Very much like when you imagine that you're packing to go on a trip or a holiday and you're away for like, let's say 3 weeks, and there's like so much you need to do, like have you packed this, so making sure you've packed everything, have you sorted stuff out in the home, are the plants going to be taken care of? So very much like all of that sort of like info coming through to make sure that you're as ready and prepared as you can be before you leave. And obviously when we're in those moments, we suddenly go, oh, I forgot to do that. Or, oh, that would be a great idea. Let's do that. Do you know what I mean? And this is sort of the energy that comes into January, is this like, oh, moments I feel like we have while we're in this phase of refinement and getting clarity on where we wish to go. So we start off in Jan, on the 3rd of Jan, we have Venus moving into Aquarius, which is a really, really beautiful energy. Aquarius is, you know, they're the weird, eccentric ones in the zodiac sign, but it is about innovative thinking. And so here for me, the energy that it comes through with this is that we get to play with thinking out of the box about certain things. The aspect she makes allows that energy for aha moments. You know, Venus is about our values, our self-worth. There's also beauty and money and those sort of things. So potentially there's been situations or things that have happened and you just need to potentially see it from a different space, you know, or how could you use technology in a different way within your world and that sort of thing. So very much like, and it's a very fun, light energy that she brings through us. Actually, that first week and a bit as we lead up to the new moon, is full moon, is very like light. There is a joyfulness, there's an exuberance, there is a lightness to it, and very much allowing us to use the mind, but in a very intuitive way, because remember that Mercury is retrograde until, let me check, the 18th. So we have that. So Venus is in Aquarius until the end of January, the 27th, and then she shifts into Pisces. So we have Venus moving, and then we build up to the full moon on the 7th of July, and the full moon is in Cancer. And the full moon, we have the Sun conjunct Mercury in Capricorn, and then we have the Sun, Moon, and Mercury trining Uranus. And so this is a really beautiful energy. When we think it's illuminating between the two, we have Cancer, which is home, nurturing, family, our roots type vibe. And then we have Capricorn, which is on the side, which is like our work, our status, our recognition, our out in the public light. So you have these two worlds, your home, your inner home world, and then your outer external public world that people want to see. And so when we have the full moon, it often brings up potentially the polarities between the two, which space you playing more in or giving more to, what's more of a priority for you, what is coming up in both of those areas. But because we have Uranus and Mercury in the mix, And both of them are still retrograde, my loves. It feels like it's a really deep intuitive time for us. It can really allow us to see potentially what old stories are playing out, old paradigms, maybe things that we've always just been, well, that's just the way we do it, you know. And so the energy of coming in of like, well, how could you do it differently? How can you balance both? Why do you have to choose between both? You know, we don't have to choose between having an incredible home life and a commendable like public out life. You know, both can be just as magical. Potentially there is, you know, there's potential for shifts relating to the freedom that we crave or that we have, our family dynamics, how we nurture others, how we want to be nurtured, how we nurture ourselves, how do we take responsibility, where are we creating structure or no structure in our life. And so those are all sort of themes that are coming up in this moon, but it is very sort of harmonious one. So like I said, there can be really like profound insights that come through it, but it feels like a very gentle inward one that we go into. And this is sort of happening as Mars is in its last part of retrograde in Gemini. So we sort of having this like building up of Mars stationing direct. So really enjoying this like nurturing, taking time to nurture yourselves, my loves. And also remember, whenever we have a full moon, especially full moon in Cancer, that rules our emotional body and that sort of thing, is to be aware of stuff that could come up, you know, and allowing space for those emotions, especially 3 days before and 3 days after we have that period. So if potentially it feels very emotional for you or it's bringing up a lot of stuff, just practice kindness and compassion. Find ways to bring back your body into safety, into harmony through somatic practices, through breathing, just really making sure throughout everything that your body feels like a safe container in order to process what it needs to process. When our bodies feel safe, we're able to go to deeper layers and that sort of thing. And for each one of us, how we create that safety within our own bodies is completely unique and different, and shifts as we shift, you know, different layers needed. So that's very much our first part, very light. And like I said, then we start moving in to what will be the great sort of shake up in a way, but we suddenly start having our planets all going direct, which is amazing because then we'll be in a retrograde free period until mid April. So really, really great. But we start off with Mars on the 12th. We then have Mercury on the 18th, and just after the new moon on the 22nd, we have Uranus. You know, the Mercury shifting out to the retrograde, it does sort of, you know, it's our mind, it's our logic, it's that sort of thing. So bringing back that space of, you know, what we've been reviewing in the Capricorn space, our structures, what our goals are, our long-term visions, and those sort of things. Mars has been for a really long time, my loves. Top of my head, I can't think now, but I'm pretty sure it was September, October, and it's still then into its shadow into March. But so this is a big one, you know, it's been going. Mars rules our energy, our vitality, our drive, you know, and we've all been, I think, feeling that push-pull of wanting to go and do stuff and then still just not having that yet and that sort of thing. So Mars doing it, and then whenever a big planet like Uranus stations direct, we definitely feel that, you know, because it's this big planet going and then start moving. So for me, it feels like from about the 10th, 11th until 23rd, 24th, that period, those days is almost, there's potential and potency for a lot of, like I said, the ahas, clarity to come through, insights and that. But I feel like it's a time where, if you can, is to create spaciousness in your world. Allow there to be grace if plans aren't going according to what you think they should do, aren't unfolding as they are. Have compassion for, I think there could be quite a lot of volatility, heightened emotions in that period. frustration, you know, anger could come up and that sort of thing. So I really think on the collective, we really don't know. Mars shifting and also Uranus, it is sort of an unknown feeling of it. Mars can be like, oh, well, you know, I'm so tired of being going retrograde and now I'm just going to go forward and bulldoze, you know. So it's, and Uranus is always like anything. So, you know, it's a really great period, I feel like, for allowing yourself to see what unfolds. So, you know, recognizing that you're going to get into the period where you can take the action and do that. But this is sort of this grace of, well, I'm just going to see. I'm just going to observe. I'm going to feel how things feel. I'm going to see how things land, don't land, but really having just that wisdom. And like I said, the surrendering into the unknown is sort of this potent period that we have. And in this space, we also have the new moon in Aquarius, and she's literally just before Uranus shifts direct. And Uranus is her modern ruler, so you know it's quite linked in that modern rulership of innovation, ingenuity, weirdness, wackiness. You know, that Aquariusness of Aquarius is also very much about what can we do for the good of the humanity and the collective. You know, they're not necessarily your deep empaths or emotional, you know, feeling based like Pisces. They're very much, you know, it's an air sign, the logic. And so it sort of can be where like, well, we can overlook this because it's for the good of the whole group. Do you know what I mean? So there is that energy, and Uranus is that higher wisdom and consciousness that comes through. So, you know, there is that beauty of the new moon. It's dark, you know, a new moon is, there's no light and stuff. So it really feels, you know, like even though we have Mars and Mercury already coming out, Uranus is still in that deep, deep, deep dark space before it emerges the next day. And so we've just had the sun, you know, it's not, we're at, I think it's 1 degrees of Aquarius. So we're still in a conjunction with Pluto, with the sun and the moon in the late degrees of Capricorn. So you have that playing out. Pluto is about transformation, what needs to be let go of, the deep underworld, that sort of feeling. And Venus is conjunct Saturn toward the end of Aquarius. You know, as Aquarius is finishing up its, I mean, Saturn's finishing up its journey in Aquarius. So for me, it feels like it's almost like the stuff bubbling up. You know, what is bubbling up that needs to be let go of? You know, you've sort of had hints of like, yeah, really this last little bit of we've been reviewing stuff, we've been reviewing stuff, but what no longer serves us, my loves? Where have we potentially been avoiding the deep shadow stuff? You know, what is coming into our mind now that Mercury is more direct and stuff? Mars, like, you know, it feels like very much this swirling, bubbling, dark energy. And I think, like, you know, the same as what I said, because we're still in that period, is just allowing it to surface. I think it's a great time to notice, you know, old paradigms, old ways of doing things versus how you wish to do. You know, do you repeat the same pattern over and over, and yet you're like, but I don't want this anymore? And then how, you know, creating space for an innovative way of like, well, how do I then do this differently? How can I, you know, asking for that divine wisdom to flow through yourself, but really seeing and being comfortable with the sort of like darkness we all have, you know, the space that we really haven't gone into yet and sort of thing. And just being gentle and compassionate. I feel like so much compassion and gentleness is needed, an element of serenity. And in that space, you know, the Ho'oponopono prayer is a great one. Like, I find it so beautiful that you can then just say those words, you know. And in traditional Chinese, many side notes, the heart actually, you know, governs thoughts and emotions, and whatever you say and think filters through your heart into your bloodstream, into every single organ. So saying the Ho'oponopono prayer and really then letting it land in your heart and feeling those words of love and forgiveness and acceptance flow through your body in this vessel, you know. First and foremost is loving self and accepting self, forgiving self, and, you know, having gratitude for yourself. So it's a really great prayer that I find that you can just, you know, when you're in that moment, any moment actually, but come to and just repeat it to yourself. So you can feel like there's all of that. And then we sort of get this lightness, this more gentle dissolving sort of energy when Venus comes at the end of January, the 27th, and she now shifts into Pisces, you know, and Pisces is about universal love. Pisces is very much, you know, it's a mutable energy. We've been through a lot of fixed energy, cardinal and fixed energy through January. And so we're starting to bring in this mutable energy, which means we're allowing change, we're allowing stuff to dissolve, we're allowing stuff to shift, and that sort of will bring in that flavor for us into February, the beginning with Venus there. And so it really is just settling in, and then we're building up to that first quarter new moon on the 28th of January. And whenever we have the first quarter, that's when we can really start taking aligned action. So seeing what came up through the month and then really starting to implement and take those action sort of steps from the 28th onwards, even a bit before, if that feels aligned. It's really listening to your own body and intuition. But my loves, the beautiful part is then, you know, we're out of retrograde season until mid-April, where we have our next Mercury retrograde. So it really is a potent period of we can actually just move forward, you know, and we are having a few shifts during that time period of Saturn and Pluto are going to be shifting signs. So it really is quite a magnificent, beautiful time to just go and allow that energy of movement after being for such a long time with Mars in retrograde. So I am wishing you a very peaceful, illuminating and compassionate January, and just at the end of the day, just remember to come back into your heart space, my loves. And the best way is just conscious breathing, really focusing on the inhale and the exhale, and you immediately just come grounded back into self. Sending you so much love, my beautifuls. Bye.